Chances are pretty good you've used Microsoft Word before for different kinds of tasks. Taking that into account, the purpose of these tutorials is not to teach the student Word from the ground up, but to re-emphasize important features in Word, and to also develop a refocus on important skills the student will need when entering the collegiate environment. Verse of the day: humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. James 4:10. In this lesson, we're going to focus on MLA formatting and style guide. You can go to owl.english.purdue.edu/owl/resource/747/01 to find all of the things that we're going to start talking about in these subsequent lessons. Alright, here we are in Word, and one of the things that we want to do is to know how to change various settings in Word. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Tab control, and I'm going to go ahead and start typing. This is the day the Lord has made. I shall rejoice and be glad in it. Praise the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of His benefits. Okay, couple of things I've noticed. First thing, the tab is too much. The tab is actually set for a 1 full inch. So we need to set the tab to 1/2 inch. MLA formatting expects the tab standard to be 1/2 inch. Second thing I noticed is that my text is single spaced. And again, MLA formatting expects that we have double spacing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight what I do have so far, and I'm going to show you how to change the settings. We're going to go to Page Layout, and then under the Paragraph category, we click the Expander button, and the Paragraph dialog box appears. Now the line spacing is the first thing, and it's the easiest thing to fix. Under the Spacing category, I changed the line spacing to double. Under the Tabs button, I changed the default tab stops to 1/2 inch. And that is how you can change tabs and line spacing in Microsoft Word. There are many features in Word that get used a lot, and so some things you can find directly if you want to change various settings. But there are a couple of things that maybe even if you've used them before, they're still worth noting. And so one of the things I want to focus on is what's called the Show Hide feature right here in Microsoft Word. What the Show Hide feature does using this little button, which looks like a backwards P, is it shows all of the indentations, all of the spacing, everything in the document that we don't see visually. And the reason why this is important is because formats, particularly MLA format, has a certain standard. So let's read the first one. Leave only one space after periods or other punctuation marks unless otherwise instructed by your instructor. Well, that's a very easy one, a trap to fall into. And you don't want to get docked off points if your instructor's particularly picky about this kind of feature. So for example, let's say I add 2 spaces here, and then I type in, that is double spaced after the period. Well, if you've been up all night, you don't want to have to eyeball your report before you turn it in. So this is where the Show Hide feature can come in handy. I click on the Show Hide button, and it shows me all of the indentations, all of the spaces, all of the tab returns in the entire document. And if I notice right here, I zoom in, and I look at those 2 little dots, that means that I put 2 spaces after the period. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to just click back 1, and now I can see that there's 1 space after the period there. And so this is one of the ways that this is a very useful feature. To hide everything, just click the button again, and it hides all of these. Next thing you need to know. Create a header that numbers all pages consecutively. The word consecutively means one after the other. In the upper right-hand corner, 1/2 inch from the top and flush with the right margin. So now I'm going to show you how to insert a header. So what we do is we scroll to the top of the document. I place the cursor at about this position and I double click. And immediately Word enters the header editing window. Now, first thing I'm going to do is arrange my alignment. And the way that I do that is notice that Word has created a special category here called the Header and Footer Tools. And this is the Design tab for the Header and Footer Tools. Under the Position category, I'm going to click on the Insert Alignment tab. Now the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to position all of my text to the right-hand side, which is what MLA formatting specifications wants. I hit OK, and now I'm aligned to the right. Now to insert page numbers, it's best to let Word do that for us, so I'm not going to type the number 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Header Footer category, select page numbers, and at the current position, I'm going to choose plain number. Now if I went to this right here and chose top of page, it would undo the alignment that I just created. So I want to make sure I choose current position and then plain number. And I hit enter. And now Word is entering the page numbers for me. So if I create a new page, let me double click and leave the header footer area. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom of my text. And if you didn't know how to insert a page break, I'm going to show you now. Insert tab, and then page break. Inserted a new page, and look what Word did for me. It created a new page numbering. I'm going to hit Control Z. That undoes what I did last. Scroll back to the top. Now let me show you how to arrange the position if you need to. So double click. Now, thankfully, it's already positioned where it needs to be. If I go under the position category, look at the header from the top, I can increase this if I want, and notice that it gets wider. But MLA formatting says that page numbers should be 1/2 of an inch from the top of the page. So I put it right back where it needs to go. Close header footer, and now it returns to the document. So that part's now taken care of. Now remember, this part's important right here. Your instructor may ask that you omit the number on your first page. If that's the case, always follow your instructor's guidelines. So just kind of make a note of that. All right? So that is how you insert page numbers, how you change the alignment, and how you can look at all of the different spacings and punctuation marks using the Show Hide feature in Microsoft Word. Now I'm going to show you the most underused feature in Word and the most popular feature with college students in Word. The most underused feature is spelling and grammar. Now to get there, you have to go to the Review tab. So we click on the Review tab and the dialog box appears. Well, double is spelled incorrectly, and then Word will give me some suggestions. Usually spell checker's really good, okay? And so I can select the first one. I'm going to say change this instance, so I hit change. Inch is misspelled, so I'm going to go ahead and hit change. Now, let's go ahead for just a second and let's scroll to the bottom. I'm going to change this right here, this part where it says if you have to having. Now that's bad grammar, and notice Word underlines it in green because it acknowledges that that's bad grammar. But I'm going to let you know this right now, and you probably already know, computers are very, very, very poor at identifying good grammar. They can usually point out bad grammar, but they're not very good at pointing out good grammar. So I click on the spelling and grammar, and it wants me to change this to capitalized. So while Word is good at telling me what's spelled incorrectly, it is exceedingly poor at telling me what's good grammar. That's going to come from my English understanding of what I learned in English class alone. Okay, so you can pretty much trust Word when it comes to fixing spelling. You can't really trust it very much when it comes to fixing grammar. So I'm going to change this back if you have any endnotes. All right, that is the most underused feature in Word. All right, let's look at the most used feature in Word by college students, and that would be word count right there. your document has to be, let's say, 1,500 words. And so this is where students pretty much go to make sure they're meeting the minimum requirement and that they don't have to type any more than they have to. Again, this is also under the Review tab. So I click on Word Count, and then Word tells me how many pages I have, how many words I have, how many characters are all together, characters with spaces, this is with no spaces, paragraphs, and lines. So that is the most underused feature and the most overused feature in Microsoft Word. Here's the very beginning of an MLA formatted report. The first thing we need to know is that in the header, we need to have our pages numbered accordingly, and the page number should be preceded by our last name. Again, to get into the header, double-click, and Word enters the header editing window. Outside of that window, double-click, and then you leave the window, back into the main document. MLA format also says you should begin with your first name, then the name of the instructor, the name of the class, and then the date. Now, I've decided to break my report up into sections, and that's not necessarily needed. It really depends upon how you want to organize your report. But if you decide to break up your report into sections, then what MLA format suggests is that you number each section, followed by a space, the name of the section, and then a period. Okay, so now it's your turn. Open up the morality.rtf file in Word and format this document into MLA standards using the features you've reviewed in this lesson. Save your document when it's finished as A23.morality.yourlastname.docx. God bless you, wherever you are today.
Praise Father, Son. Praise Father,